So when you get your EFES 14500 700 milliamp IMR lithium rechargeable batteries, they're going to have an authentication label on them. Peel that off and wipe it down with something like WD-40 to get the stickiness off. The reason is because it's a very tight fit inside the battery compartment on a Blackbird, and they'll get stuck in the very end, and it'll be a pain in the butt to get them out. Okay, now the EFES Luck V6 charger. It has two charging modes. This is the mode that you're going to want it in, because when you push this button right here, it just quick charges the two center cells in there at 2 amps. I'm not really sure of the charging rate. 6 at 0.68 amps. Now these batteries, when you wear them down far enough, what happens is the gun will stop firing, but the counter will continue to run, and so will the motor and the magazine. So we're just topping these off, and once these get to 4.2 volts, they're full and you can take them off. We're all charged up and we're about to put them in the gun. I always do this the right way, because if you don't, there's a sacrificial diode on the circuit board that will burn up, and it'll smell like hell, and you'll know that you put them in the wrong way immediately. The board can be repaired at that point, but it's best to just put them in the right way every time. We've now got the batteries in the battery compartment, and it took me a long time to find these, but underneath these battery tabs, there's a plus on that side and a minus on the other side. So the batteries on the display side, the side with your window, go in negative side first, and on the other side they go in positive side first. And what you end up with is your positive symbol right there corresponding with the positive end of your battery, and your negative symbol corresponding with the negative end of your battery. Let's go over the functions of the gun. You turn it on. Your first button is your fire rate. It goes from 1 to a 10-round burst, and then to full auto. Your next button over is your rounds per minute. The SB4K V2 goes from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 rounds a minute. This button is your pulse width duration. You don't ever need to take it over 5. I start out on 4. What this is there's a solenoid in here, and it strikes your valve. And this number corresponds to how long voltage is applied to that solenoid to strike the valve in the form of milliseconds. So the way I'll do it is I'll run it at 4, and then when the solenoid stops firing, the motor keeps running, and the counter keeps going. There's a counter on here. It'll show you how many rounds you fired. Then it's time to bump it up to 5. And if you're shooting 4,000 rounds a minute and you go past 6, you start messing with the timing of everything. It's okay to use the higher values at, say, at the lower rates of fire. The stock works like so. You've got 2 detents on either end. You squeeze those in, and then you can fold it over like so, like it was shipped to you. And then if you got the grandkids or something like that over, you have notches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gives you 5 positions all the way out, being 1, 2, just find the notch and rest it on that roll pin for each one of them. Really cool design, and then you can have it all the way in. Like so. If you get a jam, unplug your magazine always first before you eject it from the gun. You do that by this button back here on the back. Just push that, and it's going to be kind of sticky because of this valve plate, but that's a good thing. Now, this button clears all the BBs in this, what I call the feed tube, that go up to your valve body. So you push that button and it drops them all out. Don't forget to put that back in if you ever get a jam, because it'll dump about 80 BBs on the floor when you turn the gun on. The barrel disassembly is different than the stock barrel. The way if you ever needed to take your gun apart, I showed you that video on how to disassemble it, but this is actually a nut here, and this nut likes to get loose on you, so you might want to put some non-permanent Loctite on it. This is actually 2 pieces, and then this comes off like so. And then there's a bushing here that comes out. It just holds your barrel in there nice and tight. So when you get to this point, you can break it apart, take your solenoid cover off. You have to take your stock off to do that first, though. Now, to connect your gun, I don't know if you're familiar with these Foster fittings, but it's just like a tiny little conventional quick disconnect for air. You have a corresponding mouth fitting there. That's how you hook it up. Pretty self-explanatory.